Hi everyone. I'm reading kind of late because I was at literacy night all night. I saw some of you there. Well, anyways, here I am. We're reading chapter 3. And it's called Joint Venture. Joint venture. Two or more people joining forces to sell a certain amount of goods or work on a single project. When the goods are sold or project is finished, the joint venture ends. Your sister is really... Shut up, said Evan. Huh? Just shut up. She's okay. She just doesn't look... She's okay. So just shut up. Yeah, okay, said Scott, holding up his free hand to show he meant peace. Evan was getting abused on both sides. The heavy cooler was banging against his inside leg with every step, and the plastic chairs were scraping against his outside leg. Bruised and bloodied, he thought to himself, all for the fun of hanging out with this Scott Spencer. Why couldn't Jack have been home, or Ryan? And why did Adam have to be on the Cape this week? It stunk. How far are you walking? Grunted Scott. Just to the corner. Evan watched as drops of sweat fell off his face and landed on the hot sidewalk. We should have stayed in the driveway. It was shaded. The corner's better, trust me, said Evan. He remembered when Jesse said the same words to him last summer. They were setting up the lemonade stand together, and Evan had been grumbling about dragging the cooler across the street and down two houses, just like Scott. But Jessie had insisted. There's a sidewalk on the side, she said, so we'll have the foot traffic coming in both directions and people and cars coming around. The curve will have time to see us slow down. Besides, there are a bunch of little kids on this side of the street, and their mothers won't want them crossing Damon Road. Sorry, the corner's better, trust me. And she was right. They made a ton of money that afternoon. It took 10 seconds to set up the lemonade stand. Evan unfolded the chairs and set up one on each side of the cooler. Scott tilted the sign toward the street for maximum effect. Then they both sat down. Man, is it hot, said Evan. He took off his baseball cap and wiped his sweat from his face with his t-shirt. Then he grabbed an ice cube from the cooler, balanced it on his head, and stuck his cap back on. Yeah, said Scott, I'm thirsty. He reached into the paper bag and pulled out a cup. It was one of those large red plastic cups that vendors use for professional baseball games. Then Scott took one of the pitchers from the cooler and filled the cup to the brim with lemonade. Hey, not so much, said Evan, pouring himself a cup too, but only part way. He glugged down his drink. What do you think glugged means? Kind of wonder. I almost want to figure that out. Let's think about that later. Not bad, he thought, though he noticed a dead fruit fly on the top. His mom had been battling a mad fruit fly infestation ever since the weather had turned really warm. The kitchen sink area, where they kept their fruit bowls, was dotted with tiny, feathery fruit fly corpses. Scott drained his cup and tossed it on the ground. Ah, he said, satisfied. That was good. I'm going to have another. Evan reached for the trash cup and stowed it under the seat. Nah, come on, Scott. You're going to drink all the profits if you do that. He stretched his legs out by putting his feet on the top of the cooler. Just chill. I'm going to chill by having another cup, said Scott. There it was, that mean bite in Scott's voice. Evan's shoulders tensed up. Move your feet, said Scott. It's hot out here. Dude, you're... Evan sat up expectantly and looked down the street. Here comes our first customer. I wonder what expectantly means. You know what, guys? I know this sounds weird, but if it's your own book, you can do this, and it's called annotated. I want you guys to say annotated again. And you actually can write in your own books. And it helps you learn, because then you can go back and you can go, what was that word that I saw that was pretty awesome that I want to use again? And we can look up that word together. So for your own books, I recommend you guys do that. Find words that you're looking at, and with a pencil or a pen, you can write in your book. Your teacher is actually telling you to write in the book. Isn't that crazy? Okay, let's go on. A mother pushing a double stroller came into view. At the same time, one of the kindergartners from down the street rode her bike up, noticed the sign, and quickly pedaled back to her house. Within 5 minutes, there were a small crowd of neighborhood kids and pedestrians. Oh, that's a good one. Buying lemonade from the stand. Evan let Scott handle all the money while he took care of the pouring and the sweet talk. That's why his mother called him a salesperson, chatted her up. Trust me, she had once told Evan and Jesse, buying something is only half about getting something. The other half is about human contact. Mrs. Tresky knew about these feelings because she was a public relations consultant. She even wrote a booklet called 10 Bright Ideas to Light Up Your Sales for one of her clients. And Evan was a lot like her. He was good at talking with people, even grown-ups. It was easy for him. So he kept the conversation flowing along with the lemonade. People hung around. Most of them bought a second cup before they left. Okay, so Jesse is really, really good at reading and writing and math, but she doesn't get emotions. And then Evan's really good at talking and all about emotions with people. They kind of balance each other out, don't they? Evan was so busy, he almost didn't notice Jessie was out of the garage on her bike and riding down the street toward the town. Good riddance, he thought, but at the same time he wondered where she was going. During a lull in the business, lull, what does lull in a business mean? Evan walked all around the stand, picking up discarded plastic cups. Scott sat in his chair, jingling the coins in his pocket. Man, we're going to be so rich, said Scott. I bet we made $5 already. I bet we made 10. How much do you think we made? Evan shrugged. He looked at the stack of used cups in his hand and counted the rims. 14. He sold 14 cups so far, and each cup of lemonade cost 15 cents. Evan heard Mrs. DeFazio's voice in his ear. Mrs. DeFazio had been his third grade teacher. Oh, kind of like me. And she'd done everything she could to help Evan with his math. If 1 cup of lemonade sells for 50 cents and you sell 14 cups of lemonade, how much money have you made? Did you guys know we were going to do math here and word problems at that? Word problems. Evan hated word problems. How many of you guys hate word problems? And this one was impossible. Anyway, he's pretty sure the right equation for it. 14 times 50. Do you think that's right? I don't know. But how are we supposed to solve that? That was a double-digit multiplication. There was no way he could do that problem like that. And besides, some of those 14 people had bought refills, but used the same cup. How many? Evan didn't know. Still, he knew they made pretty good amount of money. That estimate, we've used that word before, was close enough for him. How much do you think we could make if we sold it all? Asked Scott. I don't know, said Evan. Maybe $20? That sounded high, even to him, but Evan was an optimist. Oh. Do you really think? Both boys looked in the cooler. 3 pitchers were empty. They only had half a pitcher left. You were pouring the cups too full, said Scott. You should have poured less in each one. Yeah, well, we didn't have as much in the house as I thought. I've got grape juice and ginger ale. I hate ginger ale, Scott said. I wouldn't give you a penny for it. It turned out that a lot of people felt the same way. Business was definitely slower. The day got hotter. The sun beat down on them so ferociously. Oh my goodness, such another great word. That it was easy to imagine the sidewalk cracking open and swallowing them whole. Imagine it being that hot that the sidewalk is cracking. How many of you guys have seen a highway and you've seen like the air kind of billowing up, going up in almost like a haze, like zigzagging way from the ground because it's so hot? That kind of reminds me of that. Or so hot that you can crack an egg and cook on it. So hot, that's what I imagine. Fanning himself, Evan asked, how much money do you really think we should make? Could make, sorry. I don't know, said Scott, pushing his baseball cap down over his eyes. I mean, on a hot day like this, Evan said, silently adding the words, or tomorrow, if we sold 8 pitchers of lemonade, what do you think we'd make? 8 pitchers, I don't know. Scott shook his head. His baseball cap face wagged back and forth. Too hot for math, and it's summer. Evan pulled the red pen out of his pocket and started to write on the palm of his hand. 8 times question mark. 8 times 50 question mark divided by 2. That didn't seem right. Jessie would have known. She'd do the math in a second. Evan capped the pen and jammed it into his pocket. But I bet it's a lot, said Evan. I bet on a real hot day, this could actually make some real money in the lemonade business. Yeah, said Scott. Then we'd be rich, and I'd get an Xbox, the new one, with the dual controls. I'd get an iPod. Oh, I was talking about an iPod earlier. Guys, that was for listening to music a long time ago. Now we have iPads. Some people still have iPods, said Evan. He'd been saving for one for over a year, but every time he had some money put away, well, it just disappeared. No, it's more like he spent it. Like the $10 from Grandma. She'd even written in the card, here's something to help you get your music thing you want. But the money was gone. He treated Paul and Ryan to slices of pizza at the town hall. It had been fun. That would be so great to listen to music. Whenever I want, said Evan. I could tune you out, he added in his own head. They sat in silence, feeling the heat suck away every bit of their energy. Evan was hatching a plan. The heat wave was supposed to last at least 5 days. If he had a friend, not Scott, set up a lemonade stand every day for 5 days, he'd definitely have enough to buy an iPod. He imagined himself wearing it as he walked to school, wearing it on the playground. Hey, Megan. Yeah, it's my iPod. Sweet, huh? Wearing it in class when the teacher droned on about fractions and percents. Nah, but it would be so cool. At least there would be one thing that didn't totally stink about going back to school. About 2 hours, they decided to call it quits. Sales had dropped off fast and then stopped altogether. Hey, did you notice something? Asked Evan, stacking the chairs. What? When we started the stand, most of our business came from that direction. He pointed down the street toward the curve in the road. But after an hour, not one person walked past us from that direction bought a cup. Not one. They all said no thanks and kept walking. Why do you think? Don't know, said Scott. Boy, you're a real go-getter, said Evan. You know that? Scott socked him in the chest, but Evan defended and knocked Scott's cap off. While Scott was scrambling for his hat, Evan said, just hang here for a minute, okay? And set off down the street. As soon as he rounded the curve, he knew why business had fallen off so badly. There was Jesse, and Megan Moriarty from his class. They were standing inside a wooden booth, and their sign said, lemonade, frosty, delicious, thirst quenching. Hey, let's write that down too. You can write anything you want, like underline anything you want, and we'll go over it in class if you want. By the looks of it, their business was booming. Hey, what does business being booming mean? Evan watched as Jesse accepted a fistful of dollars from a mother surrounded by kids. At that moment, Jesse looked up and saw him. Evan had a weird feeling, like he'd been caught cheating on a test. He wanted to run and hide somewhere. Instead, he froze. What would Jesse do? Evan couldn't believe it. She sneered at him. Oh, that's a good one. She cocked her head to the side and gave him this little, I'm so much better than you smile. And then she waved the money in her hand at him. She waved it as if to say, look how much we've made selling lemonade. Bet you can't beat that. Evan turned on his heel and walked away. Behind him, he could hear Megan Moriarty laughing at him, clear as a bell. What do you think about that? How mad would you be at your sister if she did that? But Jessie also had a reason to be so mad at Evan, didn't she? I mean, he just started acting like a jerk, and it wasn't even her fault that she was going to be in his class. Yeah, this is kind of complicated, isn't it? So I understand why she's upset, but I understand why he's upset too. Gosh, this is getting a little bit tense, isn't it, guys? I can't wait to read chapter 4 to you guys soon. I hope you guys do well, and I will see you Monday morning. Bye-bye.